First, let's start with the cotton gin. It was invented by Eli Whitney in 1793 in an effort to make the preparations of cotton easier. Manifest Destiny began around 1820 and was the 19th century belief that the expansion of the U.S. throughout the American continent was both justified and inevitable. John O'Sullivan was an American columnist and editor who used the term Manifest Destiny in 1845 to promote the annexation of Texas and the Oregon Country. Frederick Douglass was born a slave and escaped at age 20. Later, he published The North Star and 3 autobiographies that were considered important works of the slave narrative tradition. Work as a reformer ranged from his abolitionist activities in the early 1840s to his attacks on the Jim Crow laws and lynching in the early 1890s. He subscribed to William Lloyd Garrison's weekly journal, The Liberator. The Liberator was an anti-slavery newspaper founded and published by William Lloyd Garrison on January 1, 1831. It spoke out against slavery and for the rights of African Americans. It was the most influential anti-slavery paper in the pre-Civil War period of U.S. history, and reached a much wider audience with its demand of immediate emancipation for the millions of Black Americans. It lasted for 35 years. The Mexican-American War was between the U.S. and Mexico. This was all over Texas, who, I guess, was one pretty girl we both wanted. It was an argument on whether or not Texas ended at the Nueces River or the Rio Grande. Over a period of time, the U.S. ended up gaining over 500,000 square miles. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was a women's rights activist who organized the first women's rights meeting called the Seneca Falls Convention. At the convention, Elizabeth wrote the Declaration of Sentiments, which was a list of demands including property rights and the right to vote for women. She said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal." They basically took the Declaration of Independence and added women into the mix. This meeting failed to accomplish any goals, but brought much-needed attention to the topic of women's rights. Now, onto the topic of Worcester versus Georgia. The Cherokee sued in the Supreme Court against Georgia because they didn't think that relocating was right, and they actually won the case, but Congress passed and Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act of 1830. The Indian Removal Act led to the Trail of Tears, which was the forced removal of Indians from the American South.